But our top story tonight, an earthquake, this time of magnitude 7.3 on the Richter scale, has returned to jolt Nepal at 12:35 this afternoon. The aftershocks spreading to parts of this country as well. The epicenter was located approximately 70 kilometers away from Kathmandu. At least 6 aftershocks followed the quake. Fear and panic gripped the streets of Kathmandu, where the death toll, we are now told, has crossed 50, with over 1,000 people injured. Buildings already weakened by the April 25th quake have come tumbling down once again. And the bad news is that this may not be the last of these kind of aftershocks. Let's first bring you a report today from what's been happening in Nepal and parts of India.
I'm trying to call to my home, but network is busy. It's not reachable. I'm worried for my family.
That is the fear and panic that jolted Nepal at 12:35 this afternoon, when an earthquake of magnitude 7.3 shook the country, reigniting nightmares of 25th of April. After the quake struck, Nepal witnessed at least 6 aftershocks across the country, with its epicenters in and around Kathmandu. The damage was immediate, but the extent yet to be ascertained, with buildings that suffered massive cracks in the April earthquake crumbling to the ground.
I'm trying to call to my home, but network is busy. It's not reachable. I'm worried for my family.
जो बिल्कुल पहले आया था उससे कम नहीं है, लगता है तेज है, आगे ही है सामने।
लगभग हम ये एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि 3 से 4 महीने इसके साथ आफ्टरशॉक एक्टिविटी चलती रहेगी। तो डेफिनेटली जितने भी वहाँ जो बिल्डिंग्स डैमेज हो चुकी है वो और भी ज्यादा इंटेंसिटीज के कारण जो है और डैमेज हो सकता है।
The strong tremors stretched to as far as North India. Hit by 2 near simultaneous earthquakes with epicenters in Nepal and Afghanistan, Bihar was the worst hit. At least 16 deaths reported from the state. The National Disaster Response Force is on standby.
जिस भी प्रकार की सहयोग की आवश्यकता होगी नेपाल के बराबर भारत उसके लिए तैयार है। यहाँ पर किसी को पैनिक क्रिएट करने की कोशिश नहीं करनी चाहिए, ऐसा कोई संकट नहीं है।
Just over 2 weeks after the quake shattered Nepal, another has left it jolted. The people of Nepal live in perpetual fear and anxiety. The fear of death and uncertainty looms large. Bureau Report, headlines today.
First to Yuvraj Gimre, Chief Editor of Annapurna Post, leading newspaper in Nepal. He joins me from Kathmandu. The line is not very good there on Skype, Yuvraj, but just give me very quickly. We are being told the death toll has now crossed 50, as many as 55 dead. How serious is the damage?
Well, it is. The extent of damage is yet to be, but preliminary report says more than 60 people are dead. Most from those at the street is about 100 kilometers. And also Nepal, which was most hit in the last April 25 earthquake.
Yuvraj, I'm going to have to intervene. I'm sorry because we're just not getting enough of a good line with you. But what you're saying is 60 people are dead. You're confirming that more than 60 people are dead at the moment in Kathmandu. And there is right. We are having a problem with your line. We'll try and get back to you later. But that's what Yuvraj Gimre is saying. 60 people now dead in Nepal, and that figure could rise. But it's not just Nepal, as I said. It's across South Asia that these jolts and earthquakes are being felt. Remember, the tremors, the aftershocks were felt across the region. The epicenter was there, 30 kilometers north of Ramechhap in Nepal. That's where it was, 6.3 on the Richter scale. But it spread now across the regions. Take a look at how it spread across. The next was measured 5.4, and this too was 36 kilometers southwest in China. This followed an earthquake measuring 5.4 on the Richter scale. It spread right across to Indonesia. These are the quakes which have jolted in recent days. And this is what we are seeing across this region. This is where we are seeing the worst earthquakes that have been reported in recent times. And these earthquakes now are following one after the other, the magnitude of them going right across these countries at the moment. The question, of course, is these are quakes after quake, and I'm going to tell you which areas in India are actually being affected by what's happening. Quake after quake. Why is South Asia so quake prone? And more importantly, how prepared are our buildings? That's the question I want to raise. My first two guests who are joining me at the top of the news at 9, Vipul Ahuja, a leading consulting civil structural engineer, joins me. Professor G.S. Roonwal, seismologist, joins me. Appreciate both of you joining us. First of all, Professor, I just want to get it clear. Today was not another earthquake. These were aftershocks. Yes. And presumably these will continue over the next few months.
Sure. I told in the earlier interview here itself that this was a severe big earthquake, and the aftershocks will continue for 3 to 4 months. And
the aftershocks will continue for as long as 3 to 4 months?
Yes, could continue up to 3 to 4 months, certainly. And gradually the intensity should normally fade away. But this time the aftershock was pretty strong.
I'm going to ask my producer to just put up also the areas in India which are the worst in terms of which are the most vulnerable. Can you tell us which are the most vulnerable areas in India at the moment to these aftershocks? Is it primarily northern and eastern India at the moment, given that they are closest to Nepal?
Sure. The area which is adjoining Nepal border is surely prone. But as far as NCR and Delhi is concerned, one must understand the position of Delhi is, it's like the Himalayas, and the Aravalli ranges are touching the Himalayas, somewhere hidden inside the alluvium. Right. So the moment there are bigger activities in the Himalayas, this part of the Aravalli shakes. That means Delhi shakes. So that is the situation.
You know, given what is being suggested, that this is not the first, there could be many more. There's also a feeling that we still haven't seen the worst of the real big earthquakes. How prepared are cities, let's say like a Delhi, like a Kolkata, like a Srinagar and Guwahati, which are the top 2 cities when it comes to being in the most seismic prone area? In Delhi, for example, how many buildings in your estimation are actually quake resistant?
See, in a very, I am not very sure that there's been an exact scientific survey, but summarily that we have also heard on the news, 80%, and I believe that very much. It could be more, but it's
80% of the buildings, yes, you believe are not quake resistant in the national capital.
That's a very likely figure. That's a very likely figure. We believe that because there was a sea change in the codes as recently as 2001, and strictly most of the consulting community seriously started to implement them around 2004 or so. So after 2004, there's some hope, and that too I would say today we do not have the structural engineering profession regulated. Okay, so anyone can call himself a structural engineer. So even those people who are conscientious are following the code have started following it after 2004, and that too we are not sure who is.
So therefore, buildings built before 2004 in particular are the most vulnerable buildings, you believe. And we've also seen in cities like Srinagar and Guwahati, many of these buildings are built on land which again is, you know, either close to the Dal Lake or close to the Brahmaputra, and therefore many of these buildings are built on extremely loose soil.
Yes, that is correct. But you know, traditional housing like in places like Srinagar, you know, if you look at the age-old construction techniques in the high seismic zone areas, there's one particular technique, they call it Dhaji Diwari, for example, in Srinagar area. So those have generally survived earthquakes and so on. Guwahati also has some very traditional ways in which they have built houses. But the modern buildings which are coming up are all in the same boat.
Can I ask you, Professor, many are saying that the devastating earthquake in Nepal was not the real big earthquake, that there could be a bigger earthquake, and this Himalayan belt in particular is extremely vulnerable at the moment. Do you go along with that, that what we are seeing, that stress accumulating in the Himalayas due to the tectonic movement of the Indian plate has the potential to generate many more 8+ magnitude earthquakes in the region?
Well, this is well known. In fact, there was other day a news item also based on research article of C.P. Rajendran and others that a big earthquake is expected, but that everybody knows. But what we do not know is the time. Is the time when it is going to happen. That's a difficulty. We are not able to make a prediction of earthquake. That's a thing. But Earth is a dynamic system. It will always be restless, continue, and so we should be prepared for it.
You should be prepared for it. You know, it's easy to say, of course, that we should be prepared for it. You know, we saw after the Sichuan earthquake in 2008, many aftershocks of 7+ magnitude continuing. You're saying that's exactly what we are going to see over the next 3 or 4 months. So the next 3 or 4 months are the more worrying period.
Yes, I would think so.
You know, given that, what would you like to say is critical? Do we need greater monitoring of our building bylaws? You know, is it going to take an earthquake for us to wake up? An earthquake in a major Indian city. That's what happened in Ahmedabad in 2002. Suddenly Ahmedabad was forced to wake up to the fact that many of its buildings, including new buildings, were extremely vulnerable.
Even that didn't wake us up. We are still unregulated. The entire construction industry is virtually unregulated. From the contractors are unregulated, the subcontractors are unregulated, the consultants, structural engineers are unregulated. Probably architects the only profession in this thing which is regulated, and that too is a rubber stamp. If a person gets a degree and he becomes an architect. But as far as structural is concerned, it's a very dangerous thing. The perception of risk for malpractice in Western world, I'll tell you that the doctors, if you compare the liability insurance, the premium is higher for structural engineers than doctors. So that is a kind of risk for malpractice for structural engineers.
And we've seen that in Japan. Japan has built an ecosystem which has ensured that all its buildings are quake resistant. While in India, obviously Japan has faced more earthquakes, therefore there's a greater sense of imminent danger. But in this country, it almost seems that until the problem arrives, we will not wake up to it.
That's right. And this concern wanes within a month or so at best of the earthquake. So long as the earthquake aftermath is alive on the media, you know, so is the public. But beyond that, you know, it all withers away.
I'm going to ask you one final question, Professor. Sure. Today, when that earthquake, when those tremors were there, a lot of people left our offices, started running. People were scampering. Is that the best way to deal with a situation like this? What should people be doing when they see the earth shaking?
People should be aware that these things can happen and therefore be cool. Just come out, don't create panic. That's the worst thing we do it. Then everybody is nervous and start running, then, you know, stairs get clogged, everything has happened wrong.
Yes, one quick last word.
If you are in a high-rise building or any such thing, hide yourself under a table so that in case there is a fall of roof or anything, your head is safe.
Okay.
That is the precaution.
See, I'd just like to add to that I think the best place in a high-rise building, because within 15 seconds all the damage is done, okay, and by the time you get to your door it's about 15 seconds. So I think it's better to get under a table or next to a bed or whatever, rather than try to run downstairs. Okay.
Better to be under a table, better to be under your bed than run downstairs is what you're suggesting.
That is correct, because as you run out of the building, there are things which are falling down on your head. The parapets are falling down, air conditioners, coolers, what have you, on, you know, vases, anything that is hanging loose on the surrounding the building or on the edges, it comes falling down and people get killed with that. So it is better to be inside the building. That's a better chance of thinking that the whole building is going to pancake down is not necessarily a reality.
Professor Runwal, Mr. Ahuja, appreciate your joining us. You've given us a sense of what people should do should God forbid an earthquake strike, and you importantly, Professor, told us for the next 3 or 4 months expect similar aftershocks, some of which, like today, will be causing fatalities because they are pretty severe. Appreciate both of you joining us on a day when I was among those who ran out of our building. Maybe next time I should just stay under the table. Perhaps it's safer.